last video, I mentioned a meditation by St. Alphonsus Liguori on human respect, and I asked if you wanted to hear more about that meditation, and I had a few comments saying, yes, I want that reflection by St. Alphonsus. Well, here it is, and actually it works out well because today, the day that this video is being uploaded, August the 1st, is the memorial of St. Alphonsus Liguori, and in the traditional calendar, it's August the 2nd. So this is actually a great time for us to look at one of his writings. And it's actually a sermon that he gave on the sixth Sunday after Easter, traditional calendar, of course, which is actually the Sunday after the Ascension, when you celebrate the Ascension on Thursday. It was a sermon on human respect. This is obviously something that he had spent some time reflecting on, as the matter appears in some of his other writings, most notably his meditation on the Stations of the Cross. And in the ninth station, St. Alphonsus writes, "Give me enough strength to overcome all human respect." And I've always found that term human respect to be intriguing, because, what does it mean to overcome all human respect? And what is human respect? I won't read the entire sermon, but I've included a link in the comments below or in the description below, and it's actually easy to find online. You just search for St. Alphonsus Liguori on human respect, and you can find copies of that sermon. The gospel for that Sunday is from John chapter 15, verses 26 through 27, and chapter 16, verses 1 through 4. And he zeroes in on this line: "They will put you out of the synagogues. Yea, the hour cometh, that whosoever killeth you will think that he doth a service to God." St. Alphonsus said, "Thus the enemies of the faith believed that in putting Christians to death, they did a service to God. It is thus that many Christians of the present day act. They kill their own souls by losing the grace of God through human respect and to please worldly friends." He says that human respect is that great enemy of our salvation, and he cites Pontius Pilate, who, not wanting to lose the friendship of Caesar, sacrificed Jesus to death. In the first part of his sermon, he talks about the importance of not being influenced by human respect. He said, Jesus Christ has said that through the scandals of the wicked, many souls fall into hell. But how is it possible to live in the midst of the world and not to take scandal? This is impossible. To avoid taking scandal, St. Paul says, we should leave this world. Now, obviously, we can't do that, and so St. Alphonsus gives the same advice that many of us were given when we were young: avoid bad company. We cannot leave this world, but it is in our power to avoid familiarity with scandalous sinners. And this is important, St. Alphonsus says, because the closer we are to bad company, the more pressure we will feel to imitate their example and conduct, lest we lose their friendship. The result, of course, is that to save these bad friendships, we sacrifice the friendship of God by giving in to sin. And he goes on to question why we would even do that. They glory in their own iniquities. They rejoice in wicked things. And worse yet, they want us to be like them. They want us to join them in their sin. And so they ridicule those who try to live like true Christians, who want to avoid offending God. St. Alphonsus says that these are very displeasing to God. They mock the servants of God, and he shall mock them for all eternity. St. Alphonsus warns us that they are convinced that there are many weak and timid souls who will easily abandon the life of virtue and give in to a life of sin if only pressured but a little. Hopefully, we are not among those weak and timid souls. How many, to avoid the scoffs of wicked friends, have been induced to imitate their wickedness? How many also, when they receive an insult, resolve to take revenge, not so much through passion as to escape the reputation of being cowards. And so St. Alphonsus says, "Brethren, if we wish to save our souls, we must overcome human respect and bear the little confusion which may arise from the scoffs of the enemies of the cross of Jesus Christ." So whatever ridicule, whatever mockery, or even persecution that may come about because we upset the enemies of Christ, it's worth it in order to remain pleasing to God and to save our souls. But some of you will say, "I attend to my own affairs. I wish to save my soul. Why then should I be persecuted?" This is addressed to those who say, "Well, I just want to live my faith. I just want to keep to myself. I just want to be left alone." But St. Alphonsus says that you cannot escape persecution. Sinners cannot bear the sight of the man who lives according to the gospel, because his life is a continual censure on their disorderly conduct. So, for example, you're making the sign of the cross at a restaurant. Well, that may very well be upsetting to someone who sees you. Maybe out of guilt for walking away from the faith, you remind them of what they walked away from. Maybe they just hate Catholics. Especially in today's hypersensitive culture, your sign of the cross might offend someone. Again, we cannot be concerned about that. Only be concerned about doing what is pleasing to God. And it's true that to follow this would cause great injury to ourselves, at least in the temporal world. And that's why this is hard. You will lose friends. You might alienate members of your family. You might lose your job or more. But to suffer these things for the sake of God will result in many blessings from Him, not only in the temporal world, but in eternity. Blessed are you when men revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. So, how then do we get over the fear of overcoming human respect? To overcome human respect, it is necessary to fix in our hearts the holy resolution of preferring the grace of God to all the goods and favors of this world. We have to be firm in our choice to love God more than anything and anyone else. And because there are so many temptations, and because we are so weak, that choice has to be reaffirmed daily. It's also a choice that we need to practice. This is why you hear me say over and over the importance of daily acts of self-denial, learning how to say no to ourselves, learning how to say no to lesser things, and be comfortable with the inconvenience that causes us, so that we are free to say yes to God. St. Alphonsus says, "The true servants of God rejoice to see themselves despised and maltreated for the sake of Jesus Christ." They will ask you, "Why do you not act like the others?" You say, "I am not alone. There are those who want to lead a holy life. I choose to follow their example." They might say to you, "Don't you know that people say bad things about you, that they ridicule you for your faith?" Say, "I only care what God says about me." And if they ask you, "How can you bear an insult?" you answer them by saying that I am a Christian and that it is enough for me to appear well in the eyes of God. This is a practical way of being a heroic Catholic. I was talking about Heroic Catholicism in the last video. This is one of the ways that we can be heroic in our faith, by being faithful to the Lord no matter what injury our faithfulness might cause us by other people and what they say to us and what they might do to us. The willingness to be faithful to God no matter what is what helps us to become heroic in our faith. And not everyone is going to be able to do this. There are not many people who are going to be sincere in trying to do this. For those of us who do, we need to pray for each other and support each other. May God bless us and help us to be heroic in our faith.